Hello, and welcome to another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And today we'll be running through the puzzle that was for today's times, 30th of August, and we'll have a look at my solve and I'll comment on a few of the clues. So, one across, share room perhaps with Ringer and the Bell Tower. A little tricky, but once I started realizing that share room perhaps was the definition, almost certainly, and eventually in the bell tower looked like it could only be giving a clue to up at that point. So I used the share room perhaps and the 6-2 enumeration to allow me to think of double up as a phrase meaning to share a room if two people are doubling up. And then I was able to work out that the ringer was a double in the sense of a lookalike. And that was quite a neat bit of misdirection in the clue, giving a nice answer. 3 down had old boy upset, and that old boy is so often OB, which is a traditional definition, I think, for old boy. So upset, I had a B at the start of the clue. That obviously looked like BO, but then I needed a phrase for the amount dished up to go under that, the whole thing to mean some sort of nuisance. And I'm more familiar with botheration as a sort of minor piece of swearing than an actual word meaning nuisance, but familiar enough, happily, and very neat to use the ration in a clue for botheration, I think. So nice bit of clue writing again. 4 down was one of those hidden. Simon mentioned that almost every Times crossword does contain a clue in which the answer is actually hidden literally in order in the word. Now in this case, as sometimes there was an indication up to turn the word around, to turn the part of the clue that was supplying the hidden word around. But again, it was a fairly straightforward one, and indeed the rest of this top half was reasonably straightforward. 8 down, though, was quite an unusual clue. Rose may have got up as one, and with the first S and N in the grid, I couldn't see what was going on there, although I was aware that rose, obviously, although it can mean a flower, can also mean got up, which was also in the clue. So I had an idea in my head that this might be a quite unusual type of clue. And indeed it is, because all it's really doing is giving you an example of the answer. And what Rose might have got up as is a synonym, not in the sense in which you read the clue originally, but rather cleverly, the clue is giving you the example that Rose might have as a synonym, got up. And that's an unusual type of clue where you're really being asked to just exemplify, to have an example of the meaning of the answer that's going to go in. 17 down, adult to depart, having imbibed a very strong alcoholic drink. Well, a very looks like it's likely to be the job of supplying AV in the clue. So adult can sometimes be a. So I was looking for a word meaning to depart that could follow a, have AV in it, and then give a strong alcoholic drink. Now perhaps I'm lucky that I grew up with a Danish parent, and the Danish schnapps is always called akvavit, so that I'm aware that translating that into slightly more Latinate English gives you aquavit, and that can be a strong drink. It's an unusual word. Quit obviously supplies the synonym for depart, but some very handy letters. And 21 across, as you'll see, I certainly didn't get immediately. Groups getting even, observe love lacking within. And there's a U in the second letter. That's a very useful crossword tip. You could spend an awful long time thinking of possible letters that could go in that square at the beginning of 21, and running through phrases that begin with BU, words that begin BUNN or TURN. It's a very good tip. When you see a U, think about a Q just before it. And in this case, as with aquavit going down, there is a Q before the U. And the groups getting even, observe love lacking within. It took me a while to think of the possibility of quintets, but once I could see that quits can be even, and therefore the NTE was somehow observe love lacking. And that is, of course, the word note, with the O representing love lacking within it. And that gives you quintets going down. So when you see a U, think about the possibility of a Q. It's harder to think of, and it's often very useful. And there we are, the crossword done in about 5.5 minutes. I'm not expecting you to go at that kind of speed, but it was an entertaining solve, a few points on it along the way, and hopefully that sort of tip is going to help you in the future. But do leave comments, of course, give us some advice on what more you'd like to see, and thank you very much for joining us again. Hope to see you soon again on Cracking the Cryptic.